So before we get started, this is day 3. Obviously it is, you all know that. This is my first time here, not just in the UAE, but certainly, of course, then in Abu Dhabi. And having spent time here on stage, listening to fantastic presentations, keynotes, and all the panels, my job as event host is to do exactly that. And that's a privilege and a pleasure and a great opportunity to learn, listen and learn. I always take notes. I have a notebook with me. That's how I like to work. And I've also had chance to meet exhibitors, talk to people. I'll do a bit more of that today for sure. And also go out and have some share food with people, talk with entrepreneurs and people planning great things. This is without doubt a region of expectation, of ambition, and people who are on a mission. And as I say, spending time out either here at the event or socially sharing food with people and talking about that has been very inspiring. A few people in the room know who and what I'm talking about specifically. So that's good, looking at you, Toddington. Okay, without any further ado, we were going to have a presentation to start from ADNOC. Unfortunately, we haven't managed to include that in the agenda, but we are going to start with a panel which really addresses, I think, the fundamental that we're hearing a lot about here at the event, which is charging infrastructure. How do we ensure that it works better than anywhere else in the world here in the UAE? How do we learn lessons from what has worked but what's failed around the rest of the world? And how do we do that successfully? How do we do that in good time? In many ways, there can't be a better panel discussion than that. So, to moderate that panel, we have Sushovan Bej, who's the eMobility manager from the stage sponsor PwC. So, would you please welcome him to the stage, please? Sushovan, it's all yours. Good to see you. Thank you. Oh, Sushovan, could you sit under your picture? Yeah, that's good, sure. Yeah. Because we like to take a family picture at the end, so that's perfect. Thank you.
So, good morning, everyone, today. Welcome today for the first panel discussion for today's. Today, it will be a high-impact panel where we will discuss and focus our discussions around how to develop a sustainable EV charging ecosystem and a future-ready EV charging ecosystem in GCC. As we all know, EVs are no more a distant future, right? They are already here. But for the widespread adoption of EVs, we really need the infrastructure to make this dream of having EVs in this region true. Because EV charging infrastructure is actually the bedrock that will help in developing this entire EV ecosystem. So, in today's panel, we have brought together the leaders from Ministry, Infrastructure, Technology, Mobility Services, so as to discuss that what it will take to make this dream a real success. So, my name is Sushovan. I am a manager in PwC. I also manage the Global eMobility Center of Excellence for PwC based out of Dubai. And today we have a panel from here with us. It includes Noura from Ministry of Energy and Infrastructure. Can we have all the panelists on the stage? We have Noura from Ministry of Energy and Infrastructure. We have Rami from ADNOC Distribution. We have Rohit Ramesh from CITA EV. We have Alhareth from iCharge. And also we have Sami from Elegant Mobility. Can we have everyone on the stage, please? Great. So, thank you, panelists. I plan to have the panel discussion today across 4 segments. I will break it down into where we are today, what are the barriers, how to build a future-ready ecosystem, and the vision for 2030. So, let's begin the discussion, and we will keep the questions till the end. As a start, it would be great if I can ask the panelists if you can introduce yourself once. We can start with Ahmed.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Ahmed Abbas. I'm the business development for Elegant Mobility. I'm very much happy to be with you today, and eMobility is a real partner for UAE to deliver DC charger.
Thank you. Alhareth?
My name is Alhareth Alhisan. I am the founder and CEO of iCharge. iCharge is a charge point operator in Saudi. And we just founded the Saudi EV Association. So that's basically it.
Next, Noura.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Noura Alhouli, Director of Federal Road Control Center in Ministry of Energy and Infrastructure. I will represent the federal government in UAE now in this discussion panel. And I will focus on the efforts of government and how to collaborate with BPP as a BPP with private sector. And we'll be discussing different more topics on this panel, inshallah.
Looking forward to it. Rami?
Assalamu alaikum. Good morning, everyone. My name is Rami. I'm leading the partnerships and alliances for the EV and the hydrogen at ADNOC Distribution, where we are one of the region's largest fuel retail, and recently we're expanding into the clean form of the energy. Thank you.
Looking forward. Rohit?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Rohit Ramesh. I'm the Senior Product Manager at CITA EV. CITA EV is an electric vehicle charger manufacturer brand from the UK. We have been doing extensive projects in the region for the last decade. And I'm happy to be part of this panel and looking forward to the discussion.
Great. Thank you, everyone. So let's begin. I will start with understanding where are we today, so as to start the panel. And my first question will be to Noura, is how is the Ministry of Energy and Infrastructure integrating its planning for EV charging infrastructure deployment with its national road development?
In the beginning, United Arab Emirates government are putting the green mobility in the heart of the sustainable agenda. At 2021, Ministry of Energy and Infrastructure launched the UAE National Demand Side Management Program, which focus on the green mobility to reduce the energy consumption and CO2 emissions, and especially in transportation sector. And we have a target to reduce like 40% to 45% of energy consumption in transportation sector by 2050, which will lead us to reach the target of net zero as the same year, 2050. And we did like a comprehensive framework to post the green mobility strategy in UAE. First, we set the national EV policy to increase the sale of EVs in the country. Second, we developed the national guideline for EV charging infrastructure to enhance the specification of it. And third, we create the national roadmap for EV network. As I'm managing the federal roads in UAE, in the control center of Ministry of Energy and Infrastructure, we have a target to connect all we have a target to connect all Emirates cities, roads, and even the communities in UAE with a great infrastructure for network for the EV. And we create a national committee to plan for green mobility initiatives. And under the umbrella of DSM program to align and unify all efforts in case with private sector or even with the local authorities. As a result, we have more like 1,000 public charging stations in UAE, across UAE, and more, we reached to 147,000 EV and hybrid cars, and we have a target to convert our registered cars in UAE by 50% in 2050. So this is as a government efforts.
And that's a great start. And next question, Rami, if I can ask you, ADNOC is one of the biggest names in the region in EV charging, right? So how is ADNOC Distribution integrating EV charging into its national-wide fuel network?
Okay, so before answering this question, I'd like to take one step backwards, getting back and looking at the title of today's panel. So it's called the demand of GCC charging infrastructure. And actually, before coming into the stage, I had an interesting conversation with Sushovan today, that once it's mentioned the demand of the GCC of the region, all the focus and everyone is focusing on the charging infrastructure, right? As if it's the main problem that we are facing today, because we keep on hearing range anxiety and these things. But let me assure you, it's no longer about like the range anxiety and the lack of charging infrastructure. We need to change the focus from the EV side and not keep on like grilling the CPOs, because my colleague Noura mentioned, today we are having more than 1,000 charge points across the Emirates. At ADNOC, we only have like 220 plus superchargers, 180 kilowatts. Other like stakeholders and CPOs are having so many as well. So once we keep on like understanding how we need to cater and create more demand, it's no longer only about the charging infrastructure and availability of the charger, because today there is an infrastructure and it's a reality. And let me assure you that most of the people who are complaining about range anxiety, they are not driving an EV car. They have never experienced an EV car, but they keep on propagating the word range anxiety. But let's look from the EV adoption side. Today, we're having regulations for the charge point operator business. We're having policies. We're having a unified regular tariff. But let me ask you this question. Do we have regulations for incentives to purchase an EV car? Do we have a rebate to purchase an EV car? The sad truth is we do not have. So as a retail customer or as any other customer, my only concern, why I would go for an EV car. And today, the first wave we are having, okay, that came into the market 2021, 2022. So we will see that from 2021 until 2023, the percentage of EV sales across the whole portfolio was growing and growing exponentially. Unfortunately, last year, by December 2024, it dropped from 6.5% to 6.1%. And it's expected that this drop might continue. From the other side, we need to focus to create some regulations and incentives for purchasing an EV car. It is not only a charge point operator business, and it's not a one-man show game, it's the full ecosystem, starting even from the financing side as well. Like we discussed in the morning, if I decided to purchase a car and I will go to a financial institution of a bank, okay, and I will ask for a loan, I will still get almost plus or minus the same interest rate that I'm getting for an ICE or a fuel vehicle, correct? So why I as an end customer would decide to purchase an EV car? And then the other thing that from a rebate perspective, there is no additional rebate, or I'm not getting any benefits, and there is no clear regulations for any kind of incentives. So we need to start like focusing more, once we say that the demand for the GCC, to create a kind of like policies, incentives, because it's no longer about the charging infrastructure. Like over the past like 4 years, I've been like attending so many conferences and discussions. Once you say that we need to create a demand, it's a straightforward, everything that comes into your mind, that we need to create different and many charge point operators. But like Noura mentioned, okay, we're having more than like 1,000 charge points, and there are so many coming in the pipeline. And from someone who's driving an EV car, it's not that like extreme range anxiety. So from our side at ADNOC Distribution, we are deploying massive. We are mainly focusing on the go, like Noura mentioned, in collaboration with the ministry, where we are understanding the national footprint, how we are connecting all the Emirates, so we are making sure that you're driving from one border to another, smoothly across the highways, going through all the Emirates with superchargers. But I'm assuring you, it's just a small portion of the equation compared to the other regulation that we need to focus on. And I'm hoping that we will start hearing more about like incentives that would help us as a CPO and as ministry and as a regulator to cater for such demand.
I agree. Enabling policies will, of course, accelerate this initiative on EV charger deployment and hence enable this ecosystem to grow. But if I can ask you from more of a customer perspective as well, so what are you learning from customer behavior that inform you where and how to scale?
Okay, from a customer perspective, so as you know, we have been into the fuel retail business for like more than 50 plus years, right? So according to the data and the insights we are having, 80% of the topping up of the fuel are happening on highways. Most of the average spending time in a fuel experience is between 8 to 10 minutes compared to 20 minutes in our network. So to charge from 20 to 80% in one of our like 180 kilowatt chargers, you are spending 20 minutes. So we are almost providing a very similar experience compared to the 10 minutes you spend to top up your fuel compared to a 20 minutes. So there is a delta of additional 10 minutes, which exactly most of like our fuel customers go to one of our ADNOC Oasis or convenience store, grab a coffee, croissant, and then come back. The other thing, what we learned, that the average customers now are no longer charging from 20 to 80% at one go, which gives us a very interesting insight. That psychologically, the end customers are changing their perspective because the common perspective, if I'm driving an ICE vehicle, I go to one of our fuel stations and I top up the fuel tank until it's 100, until it's full, right? But I don't need to have the similar pattern and behavior for charging infrastructure. I don't need to go to 100%, okay? But I can grab like additional 200 kilometers in 8-10 minutes. That's one learning we find. The other thing that's very interesting, majority of the EV owners are the youth generations, they are younger than 35 years, which gives us a very indication that the newer, it's easy to adapt if you are a younger generation compared to an older generation. And why this is happening? Because we are living in a world that everything is happening fast, technology is happening fast. So the younger generations are not having an experience or an ICE experience to compare to the EV2. Similar, like now all the youth generation, like it's very hard to convince someone who has been driving for like 50, 60 years and an ICE vehicle to convert to an EV, right? Yeah. Which would accelerate over the coming years, that usually, as of today, the EV car is the second or the third car, except for the youth generations is their first car. And they would help us fast track and adapt. So these are very two interesting findings.
Good to know, good to know. So we learned a bit about UAE. If I can ask the next question to Alhareth and understand about KSA. So how does the EV charging map for Saudi look like? And what learnings or lessons are you applying for rolling out all the intercity and urban charging stations in Saudi?
Well, to be honest, it doesn't look good right now because we have very few ultra-fast charging locations. We have a bunch of AC chargers, but until now, the main cities are not yet connected. So if you wanted to travel from Riyadh, which is the main city, to Dammam, you wouldn't be able to. If you have an EV, if you wanted to travel from Riyadh to Jeddah, which is the second biggest city in Saudi, also you wouldn't be able to. Sadly, that's part of because the geography in Saudi Arabia is quite large. The second reason is that the spread of EVs wasn't that strong, and therefore the spread of the ultra-fast charging station didn't make a viable economical reason. So companies and private sector didn't choose to invest in that. However, now that Lucid has entered 2 years ago, and now that BYD has 3 main showrooms in the 3 main cities, and just last week Tesla entered Saudi Arabia, the EV market will change within few months. It already had changed in the past 4 months this year, and it will significantly change along the year. The opportunities in Saudi Arabia is quite large. So if we compare the main markets, Europe, America, and China, each one of them gone with a different aspect, and each one of them had its own challenges. But the advantages and the resources that Saudi Arabia has would easily allow it to be one of the best countries in the world in terms of EV adoptions and EV spread. The reason for that being is that the electrical coverage, the grid coverage in Saudi Arabia is quite strong and is everywhere in Saudi Arabia. So it is the locations where there is no sufficient electricity is very, very minimal. The second reasoning is that the government is willing to get the adoption in very huge numbers in a very short period of time. And last of all, the funds and the money to fund all of these infrastructures is already there. So if the legislation was clear enough, I believe the private sector on its own in Saudi Arabia would be able to provide a very sufficient network of reliable and ultra-fast chargers all around Saudi, and therefore it would be one of the best markets in the EV sectors, hopefully.
Great. So with this, we learned a bit about where are we today generally in this region. Let's move towards understanding what are the barriers in this ecosystem. And for that, I will ask Rohit a question on what are the key challenges in scaling fast charging network across the region with regards to the grid, permitting requirements, and infrastructure costs that you feel are there?
Sure. So in terms of the limitations in the region, as you said, like there is grid limitation, for example. Permitting is one of the challenges that we are facing, and also the infrastructure cost to deploy. So first, starting with the grid limitation, so most of the grids that's already established in the region, in the private, government, or in fuel stations, they are not ready to accommodate charges above 120 kilowatt in an average. Even to install 180 kilowatt, there is a requirement for a grid upgrade. And this process is taking months and not weeks for authority approvals, grid upgrade, and also getting municipality approvals and so on for public infrastructures to grow. And this, even though the policies are in place and the utility companies have streamlined it like Taka and Diva in Dubai, these external approvals and inter policies between entities are taking time for deploying the power in the premise and bringing the infrastructure live. This is one of the challenges for sure, and also the infrastructure cost. The capex is much higher in the region considering the grid expansion, also infrastructure, because most of the equipments are imported in the region, and these equipments, there is a lot of trial and error going, and then once before the operator finalizes with an partner for the equipment. So these capex is also one of the reasons of limiting the expansion in the region. But as Rami said, we have already having enough infrastructure in the region. It's just the matter of people adapting to the electric vehicles, and rebates and policies can really help people to switch from the gasoline vehicles to the electric vehicles, and policies and knowledge of this infrastructure expansion, and also bringing the user experience in a more streamlined way by bringing roaming networks in the region across maybe GCC, to have a roaming network to connect all the EV chargers within one application rather than having multiple applications for each and every operator, can also be beneficial for end users to adapt to EVs. instead of having multiple applications, payment gateways, and so on, it could be one application that could connect the whole of GCC. A GCC-wide policy would be much more beneficial at this stage because we are seeing so much of expansion in the Saudi Arabia and the rest of the GCC countries. So now bringing them all together with a policy or an roaming network would be beneficial for end users and also operators to generate more revenue and get better ROA on their investment.
Got it. So you said grid capacity is a challenge. How do you think can smart charging help in addressing this grid limitation? And what regional policies do you think can be adopted for wider implementation, or which will enable
smart charging? I would say smart charging is invented to help the grid. In fact, it's not something that will benefit the operator or the end user. This is definitely developed for EV charging infrastructures and software providers to give ease on the grid. So by adapting to dynamic load management facilities that's available within the charging technologies with most of the OEMs in the market and also with the software providers, it can be ease on the grid. Instead of consuming the power with one charger, it could be diversified into multiple vehicles and multiple chargers with the available power with the dynamic load balancing adaptation. And if the ministry and the utility providers are accepting this technology and encouraging this technology, dynamic load balancing will be a future for the region as well, like how it is tried and tested already in the Europe and United Kingdom.
Got it. So Ahmed, the next question will be to you. So from a tech provider point of view, what challenges do you think are EV users facing today, be it around app fragmentation or charger discovery or access of chargers?
Good question. Actually, because we are lucky because we are living here in GCC today, because the mobility, the EV mobility journey has started earlier than other countries in the region. But the challenges, once you started the journey, the challenges are there. One of the challenges is related to the power availability, and I think because of some of countries doesn't have the available power enough to install and make the power grid available. This is one key challenge. Other comes from the competition, from the key players in the market when it comes to different OCB, different company that provide the user journey, how they are book the vehicle and go to a specific charger, what we called it the app fragmentation, which make some time or somehow the experience itself to be difficult. And one of the key element to accelerate the journey in any country is to make a simple experience. Anyone is looking for user experience to be friendly, user interface. This is how we should accelerate. And think about the people comes from not from the locals or from they are not living here and they are tourists and they need to utilize the network itself. We need to make the apps or unify the apps in one app that could make the interface, the user or give them a best experience. This is the second challenge that we are facing today. Other is related for sure is the network security. Since we are implementing or investing in the network itself, there is power network and there is telecom network and there is a finance network as well related to the banking system. So we have to think about how to make those networks immune from any cyber attacks. This is one of the challenges. Connecting to the network or banking system which is very high standard that's why there is many challenges. But since the journey of e-mobility has been started in GCC countries early, so I'm sure that the whole stakeholders, starting from the regulators, from the consultant, from the provider, from the OEM, the journey starts. I think this kind of discussion is enable the challenges or how we are going to face the challenge in a correct way.
Got it. So what we heard about is more about the challenges the consumers face in general, but what are the challenges, and this is a similar question I asked to Rohit as well, what are the challenges to integrating EV charging to the grid, especially with new smart city initiatives and smart city systems coming up and being initiated across the region?
Honestly, this is one of the key points. When we connect, I will not go into technical details, but if we connect the EV network to the smart network, this is a very, very important integration that gives to the whole users a great experience. I will take a small example. If we have a smart parking system and it's connected already to the smart city, and we have the EV network connected to the smart city, so if I'm a simple user, I can access my EV charger in an easy way without facing the traffic. I can manage to access my charger, and I can do the experience of charging in a very short time. And here I think if we cannot control what we cannot monitor. So once we get this integration between different type of system, whether parking with EV charger to the smart city, we can find many opportunity for efficiency, for being more and more interoperability that will give a lot of opportunities for the users. And we have all to think about how to provide this customer experience in a higher level.
Great. So we can always keep on talking about EV charging deployment, what will work, what will not work. But in the end, everything has to make a business sense, right? So I will ask this question to Rami, Alhareth, and Rohit. Rami, you can start. That what are the key investment and ROI challenges when deploying EV chargers early in this adoption curve? And how are these cost-risk balances being managed?
Okay, you raised a very interesting point of discussion here. And unfortunately, the ROI is not good. And that's why in our region here, you would see it's a long-term game for public and government sector and semi-government sector. And it's very hard for purely private investors, because from investment perspective and the economics, investors will not be interested in such, like, we're talking about like 7+, that's the best case scenario, ROI use case. That's why it's mainly a country mandate and a regulation mandate to have the EV infrastructure there. And why I'm saying this, now let's look into the pains that like today I'm representing a CPO, okay? What are the pain points that we as a CPOs are having, and why we are not happy? Because when it comes to the EV infrastructure, all the CPOs looks they are the bad guys, right? This is the reality. Why you are not deploying all the time? Why it's not like, if there is a 180, why it's not like 220? Why it's not like 360 and so on? So all the heat on us. But let me tell you the story from the other side, and I believe all my colleagues agree on the same point, whether from the ministry, from system integration side. Rohit highlighted a very interesting point, right? He said that we are deploying a charger, but the journey to energize this charger and to get an approval, okay, it's 6 to 9 months, Sushovan. We're talking about 6 to 9 months. And then that's in one emirate. You go to another emirate, it's a different process. It's a different stakeholders you are speaking with. And then you go to a third emirate, it's a totally different process, right? So yesterday I was having a very interesting discussion with my friends at the Ministry of Interior. So I was discussing to them that we are having different challenges per emirate, and accordingly, if I'm from investment perspective, I'm committing a target that I'm deploying 200 chargers in this year. I'm deploying 200 chargers, but I need to wait 9 months to start energizing them to generate money, which is impacting my ROI and business case, right? And then they give me a very interesting and successful success story that already happened. We all recently heard and read in the news that if you are a UAE national, you can renew your passport in a couple of minutes, whether it's from Ajman, Abu Dhabi, Dubai, whatsoever, right? And I asked them, how did it happen? And they told me it's a very interesting thing. the PMO office, His Highness the Prime Minister office, scheduled a meeting with all the key stakeholders across all the Emirates, okay? Each Emirate highlighted what are the process to renew the passport. They, after this meeting, created work streams. They agreed on a streamlined process across all the Emirates. Each and every Emirate followed the same, and this is the outcome we want to reach. Regardless where you are, in 3-5 minutes, your passport would be renewed. So why at the EV ecosystem we don't have such a thing? Why we don't have a streamlined process across all the Emirates for how to energize, what is the process? Today, if I as an investor or CPO, I decided to put a charger here, what is the key criteria? Because I have a key criteria, and then you go to the utility provider, they have a key criteria. Then you go to another emirate, to the regulator, they have a key criteria. They say, no, we don't need here, right? And then once you agree on the location, okay, for the infrastructure, how much it would cost, right? Because the infrastructure is not running a cable from like point A to B. This is the easy thing. And installing a charger itself is the easy thing. But to decide which point it is, this is the main challenge. And then you find that each utility company is having their own financial formula that they will charge you. And then you need to discuss with municipalities, maybe the transport authorities. And accordingly, we ended up having different like business models. And to answer your question, the ROI, it depends on each emirate, to be honest. Like some emirates are fast processing, some are having challenging process, which we believe if we want to like electrify the nation, then we want to streamline one process. So it's becoming more attractive, not only for us, because every single player, whether it's a private or a government, helps electrify the nation. Yeah. Every day there are new CPOs entering the market. I'm happy. Why? Because the more CPs we are having, the more charge points, okay, the more confident the end customers, like our audience today, will feel confident. So it's not only from the CPO side. At the end, we are just one player across the whole ecosystem.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, makes sense. Rohit, if we can add your point of view to it as well.
Yes, sure. So as Rami highlighted, the permitting is one of the major challenges in the region that is delaying the infrastructure deployment and operations. And that's also one of the key factors affecting the ROI, because a project starting taking 8 to 10 months to operate a charger and keep it available for the public is going to affect the ROI for the investors who are getting into the CPO businesses and or even private operators who are interested in deploying EV chargers in their available parking or in malls and hotels and all these places. So permitting is one of the factors, and also the bringing a federal policy across the nation would be beneficial and would definitely help guide the operators and the investors in the charging infrastructure business to swiftly move towards expanding this infrastructure, and also the policies of encouraging more EV drivers and EV rebates can also help to also support the infrastructure and generate more ROI to the operators.
Got it. Alhareth, if we can have a similar point of view from you, from the Saudi side, are you facing the similar challenges?
Yeah, I have to reflect on what Rami just mentioned. I have to say that I completely disagree that the return on investment on the EV chargers is not sufficient. The basic response would be that we have to look just to the figures that Fastnet is publishing. We have to look at the figures that Ionity has achieved. We know very well by now that BlackRock has invested in Ionity, and they wouldn't invest if it wasn't profitable. And we can see also a similar thing from GridServe in the UK. The point, which is that the return on investment on the infrastructure for ultra-fast chargers are not sufficient. I think that is proven already that it is profitable if you choose the right locations, if you choose the right chargers, and if you choose the right business model. The return on investment is quite significant in a considerable, in a reasonable amount of time. In Saudi, because this is the market I work in, the main challenge that we face is the unclear projections from the government. We are not clear what's the numbers are looking in 2030. If they were to be clear enough, we would put our investments on the road, and therefore the individuals will be more encouraged to buy EVs, and therefore we will have more revenue, and we will build a more vast infrastructure. That being said, now we are focusing more on perfecting our operations. We already choose a very nice hardware from Alpetronic, and we are working on the software for it to be the best in the world in terms of ease of use and interoperability and connectivity. And within a few years, I believe for us as a private company, we will have an added value enough for the customer to come and charge at our locations rather than any other locations. And by then, by a few years from now, we will have very, very good figures in our markets in Saudi Arabia. I think the same thing could apply to the UAE and the rest of the GCC, given some exceptions on the regulations, as Rami mentioned, that depend on each region. And also it depends on the cap that is put on the amount of kilowatt hour. If there is a cap, then yes, it would affect the revenue on each location that you have. But speaking generally, the infrastructure for electric vehicles has proven its profitability, and I think it's a very, very, very interesting sector for investors already.
Great. So from this, we learned a bit about what are the barriers to adoption. Let's move a bit towards building the future-ready ecosystem for charging infrastructure. And on that, I will ask Noura you a question that what role do you see public-private partnerships play in developing UAE's EV charging network?
In my opinion, this is a very good question, because I would like to highlight here the government believe on the private sector is the main driver of the green mobility strategy for the country. And we are building a strong relationship between the government and private sector to achieve our both targets. We are creating a mutual business model to enable the private sector to be engaged in our project and initiatives by providing their experience, technologies, and even the investment. It's a win-win situations as successful engagement result to increase the sale of EVs in the country, increase the number of installed public charging stations, and achieve our target as we reduce around 4 million tons of CO2 by 2024 at the transportation sector, for the green mobility initiatives. We also introduce EV charge tariff, 1.2 dirhams for DC and 0.7 for AC. That's to encourage the private sector to invest more in the charging infrastructure and to expand our network. And also, I would like to mention, last year in the ministry, we, with partnership with Ittihad Water and Electricity, had formed UAEV to act as a national CPO to operate, maintain, and expand charging infrastructure network, and create more opportunities for private sector to partner with the government.
Great, good to know. Next, I would want to understand more from a technology point of view to Rohit and Ahmed. And we will time box the answer a bit because we are less back in time. first I can ask Ahmed you, how is the EV charging hardware evolving with response to the EV battery evolution and the regional conditions like heat and durability, etc.?
Very good question. In technical point of view, we have many challenges because hardware is the key. We are talking about the whole platform or the whole solution, but still the hardware is a key element. The countries' conditions are different. So sometimes we have to think about the temperature withstanding for the hardware, because we are living here in a region that has high temperature. So this, if we get a hardware we cannot think about its behavior. We have to put in consideration the behavior with a specific temperature. We reach sometimes 55 degree. Sometimes we have to think about the efficiency itself of the silicons, which is the semiconductors of the technology of the semiconductor that you manufacture the charger. This for sure affected the efficiency. Efficiency means loss, energy loss. We have to think about utilizing some of the hardware that still could provide better efficiency, less loss. Sometimes we have to think about the derating. That's why still the technology are increasing or asking for more investment in order to provide, because at the end of the day, it's a techno-commercial process. If we get a supercharger, that means high investment, high capex, make the journey for the rest of the stakeholders, especially the investor, still difficult. So I think this will in the near future, we will reach for optimized equations to put the high efficiencies charger in the right place to take the right performance.
Got it. Great. And Rohit, if we can add your perspective.
Yes, Sushovan. In terms of technology, I think EV charging infrastructure business is one of the fastest growing technologies in the world, where every year we are seeing new policies and new technologies in terms of ISO 15118, which is now practically becoming in reality, which we were discussing in last year, that it's nearly there. So the convenience of charging has become more easier, and also the hardware reliability. Considering the environment we are in, where there is a lot of heat and sand, it is seen in the market that a lot of hardware are struggling with this environment because of the heat and the dust. It's creating a glass effect inside the equipment once it's getting accumulated with the dust and the heat. So this, as CITA, we have been taking measures to mitigate this, to have a certain temperature control within the equipment, to avoid derating, and also to have give more uptime for the chargers. And I think every other manufacturer is also getting into this, but after getting the experience of the region and enhancing their hardware towards that. I think picking the right hardware partner and the understanding the requirements of maintenance and ongoing maintenance and preventive maintenance is very essential for this region to have the highest uptime and to not affect the ROI on the business.
Great. One quick question for which I'm expecting a quick answer from many of you is, what emerging technologies like plug and charge, V2G, wireless, etc., do you foresee being realistically adopted in the Middle East, and why? If I can start with you, Rohit, on this.
Yeah, I think plug and charge is one of the technologies that Middle East can adapt very swiftly. Not just with plug and charge, with just minimal features like auto charge. Most of the operators can have this feature integrated to have already contracts with the owner of the EV on their system. So it's very convenient for charging, and not just with one operator. If it's across a roaming operator, it would make it much more easier for the end users to just have contract with one roaming operator and access all the chargers in the region, irrespective of the operator name or the application that they are using. This would make it much more easy for EV drivers, just like going to any fuel station to just pay for it and just plug in and start charging without having to go through the sign-up process, adding your credit card, Apple Pay, Google Pay into the wallet and all these things. This adaptation I see will be realistic in the future, and I am hoping that the CPOs will be looking forward to implement this, and if there is a policy about this to encourage from the government side to encourage the operators to switch to this technology, to have a mandate of plug and charge capabilities and interoperability functionalities between the hardware and the software, and this could help in the expansion of charging infrastructure in the region.
Got it. Rami, if I can ask the same from you.
Yeah, like Rohit mentioned, like the two most appealing technologies are plug and charge and auto charge. But let me tell you, like from real experience into this, operating 220 plus chargers. So we were the first in the region last year. In July exactly, we activated the auto charge, and the auto charge is as simple as that. You only set up your vehicle to the mobile app one time, link it to your credit card or a wallet, and every time it's just plug and charge, you plug, and you don't need to use an app. So after we activated it July 2024, we received lots of complaints that people are saying some charging transactions happening on their credit card or in their wallet, however, they did not approach. And then we started looking deep and investigating, and then we figured out in order to link the car to the charger, okay, there is a protocol, usually handshaking protocol, and there is an exchange of data happening where every car comes with a unique MAC address. So that once you plug in, the charger identify your MAC address and then knows it's for Rohit, it's for Noura, whoever, and then start associating with your wallet. And then we discovered that some OEMs are not having the unique MAC address. So two different cars OEMs, brand X and brand Y, can have the same MAC address. The MAC address is kind of like the chases number. So the chases number worldwide, it's a unique. You will never have two identical chases number. And then one of the interesting, like Harris, I'll go back to Harris, Lucid, for example, are having dynamic MAC address. So every time you plug in, it's a dynamic MAC address, so it changes. And that's why when we figured out, we stopped the auto charge, and we took a proactive role. We spoke to the authorities and to the car registration across the Emirates, informing them about such issues, and proposing that with every car you are registering, usually at the back of the driving license, you have the chasis number. So we asked to register the MAC address. So we are working with the authorities on a data cleansing exercise to clear any duplicates, and we highlighted the same to the OEMs. So technologies in the books and theoretical, that's a very good thing, but realistically, we tested a lot, and I'm telling based on experience, like 220 plus operating chargers, that there are things that still need to be like viable, and that's the main difference between pitching something and then putting your hands, rolling up your sleeves and getting dig and understanding, which is very normal, and it's evolving. So it's interesting. We are working, expect the second half it will be activated. There might be some challenges that's happening, and then we will go back and continue our proactive role.
Got it. Great. Coming back to partnerships, Alhareth, I will ask this question to you, that how are you ensuring your partnerships and deployment strategies align with Saudi's infrastructure goal under Vision 2030?
Let me tell you, first of all, about what we have done until now, then I'll tell you more about our partnerships. Until now, we were able to install Saudi's first ultra-fast charging location, which involves a tariff on each kilowatt hour you use from the charger, which was the first. So there is a payment system within it and a billing system. Until now, none other company has been able to do that because of the complexity with the central banks that are involved. And now, thankfully, we were able to finally connect the Riyadh region with the eastern region, with the Dammam region. and we are connecting also Riyadh region with Qasim region. And within a few months, hopefully, we will be connecting Riyadh region with Jeddah, which is Mecca region. And therefore, we'll be connecting Saudi from the Red Sea to the Gulf Sea. And that's what we have done until now. We provide the services that we have to our customers. So we have provided our chargers that we supply from Alpetronic and our services for installing it and our operation and the payment system that we developed to petrol stations in Saudi Arabia and also to petrol stations in the GCC. So we are working with companies that like the service that we provide to customers. So we install and operate the chargers that they have with a guaranteed uptime of 95% and a revenue stream enough for their projections. So now we are collaborating more with companies in the sector, whether they are utilities companies, energy companies, or petrol station companies. And now we are also looking to partner with real estate developers. So we acquire the locations from them, and sometimes we have joint ventures with them so that we spread more the network and for both of us to benefit. So we bring them more customers because of the service that's going to be provided at their locations. And they sometimes invest in the infrastructure so that they can get some revenue from it.
Great, good to know. So this was more about understanding how to build this ecosystem. Now, moving to my last bit is preparing for the future vision for 2030, on which I will ask Noura you the question is, how is the ministry planning to shape more PPPs for public-private partnerships for enabling this EV charging ecosystem?
First of all, we are continue to engage with the private sector to achieve more and to address all challenges to make the UAE lead the region with regard the green mobility. The government are working on new policies and regulation, as everybody already mentioned on this panel, which will empower the private sector and to make maximum use of their expertise through the PPP manual we have in the government. An example, we create the EV Majlis, the open EV Majlis, and we focus on this Majlis with the leader and OEM, experts and private sector to communicate and discuss all of the challenges on this market and design policies and explore the potential collaboration between government and private sector. This Majlis is happening annually, and we held the third Majlis edition 2 days ago. And we are achieving a huge achievement with the private sector together, and we become the first in the MENA region with regards to the percentage of sales of the EVs, and we increased the sales by 25% at 2024. And we're doing a lot of engagement session with the private sector to update them with our initiatives and our new projects. And I would like from this stage for all attendees you are more than welcome to reach out to us and explore how we can work together and create a lot of successful stories in the market. Thank you.
The ministry is of course taking amazing initiatives so as to make this ecosystem a success. But how can we, the masses in public or the general public, know about all the initiatives that the ministry is taking in general?
Actually, regarding to the initiatives in terms of local authorities, we have, as I mentioned before, we have committees. We discuss all of these initiatives and projects, and we collect all of these efforts in one hand and unified all of these. And regarding to the private sector, we also have, as I mentioned, EV Majlis, and we have one meetings with the private sectors and the companies and even the car producers. And regarding to the other semi-government companies or entities, we also have an open discussion with them, our leaders together to reach out with our goals. And everything is announced for public, and we mentioned as a government what we reach already. And I believe His Excellency yesterday in the stage in his sessions, all of these numbers, I mean, the increasing of EV sales and how many cars that already, he mentioned that yesterday. But yes, we do have a lot of collaboration between government, private sector, even with the local government, and even with the GCC countries.
Thank you so much. One last question that I have, and after that we can open the session if the time to permits, and that is to Rami and Alhareth. Is for Rami first, how does a fully built EV charging ecosystem look like in UAE by 2030? How do you see that?
Honestly, it depends on the government role. Because there is a mandate to swap like most of the government entities, like 5%, to have 5% of their fleet. So yes, that's one thing for the corporates and the governments, but what is the government perspective towards the retail customers, which are a big chunk like us? How we can drive them, because usually psychologically there are two ways to drive a human being to do two things. The first one, it's the attractive way to show him there is like a benefit out of it, or to be enforced. You must do it because we'll apply a penalty or whatsoever. So the good thing that here in our region we started late, and sometimes it's good to start late so that we learn the useful, lots of use case from the European and Western market. So what happened there, how they were able to ramp up, looking at China, for example, almost like 40% of their cars running into the road is EV. Europe is like 30%, similar to the US. So here we're still around like 5-6%. So how we can drive it? If we look at the Western market, what they did? The government did lots of incentives, rebates. China has been doing it for like the past 10-12 years, as you know, doing lots of rebates, free parking, free toll gates, all of these things. And accordingly, they followed the best optimum way for the end customers, that you have a benefit out of it, and started driving. China, after 12 years, they stopped giving rebates. But why? Because you reached 40%, and it has been a long journey of 12 years. The way I see it here to happen is that we need a strong incentives, not a mandate, from the government, rebates, and there are like quick wins that we can touch base, like as easy and as fast as free salic, free darb, free parkings. Okay, all of these things would drive all of us here in this venue to drive an EV, because I need an attractive value out of it. Because honestly, why would I go for swap from an ICE to an EV, right? Because I'll tell you something, and let's be honest, the EV charging experience is not 100% convenient as the fuel, yes, it's maybe 90%. So if I'm an end customer willing to downgrade and compromise my fuel experience from 100 to go for an EV to a 90%, so in return, the government or someone, whoever, want to give me something in return to make it attractive. So this question, I believe we need some incentives and added values, perks.
Got it. And Alhareth, if I can ask the same thing to you, how do you see that ecosystem in 2030 for Saudi?
First of all, I just want to reflect on what Noura said. I really like the Majlis idea, and I really want to be part of it. And we've done a similar thing in Saudi. Having 2 years in the sector, I personally realized that if it continued in the same pattern, it would be very chaotic, because each company has its own plans and each governmental entity has its own plans, and there is some requirements in the sector that is not being provided. And therefore, we started the Saudi EV Association, taking the precedent from the Norwegian EV Association and from Charon also in Europe. So we are doing similar things, and hopefully these efforts will help the region to have a very, very strong EV market in the very near future. Going back to your question, can you please repeat it?
How do you see the EV charging or the EV ecosystem built by 2030 in Saudi?
So the ecosystem of the whole EV sector in Saudi Arabia by 2030.
Yeah.
So the adoption is quite significant. I believe BYD in Saudi Arabia are selling 8 vehicles per day now with their 3 showrooms. Tesla, from what I heard, they just announced for 2 weeks now, they already sold the whole patch for this quarter. So the people in Saudi, they have enough capital individually to spend these amounts on EVs, and they like it so much that they are willing to invest in these vehicles. So the adoption on the personal level is there. To accelerate it, the government is already giving out lucids for government officials, which is also improving this significantly. Also, I believe the government are going to put some requirements on fleet owners and deliveries and truck owners to have some percentage of EVs in the very near future. And with all of this, and most importantly, with a sufficient, fast and reliable network of EV chargers, I believe by 2030 we will easily reach the projection of 30% vehicles on the road being renewable, at least, if not electrical. So I think it's a very, very tangible outlook, and I believe that we can achieve a little bit more than that if we plan it right and if we execute it in the best way possible.
Inshallah, I'm sure. With this, thank you panelists for your insightful discussions. I don't know if we have time to ask any questions or anything.
We're going to do that. I just want to say one word. Wow. Wow, what an amazing panel. This is between you and I, Sushovan. It's my favorite panel so far. Okay,
thank you so much.
Don't tell anyone else. The good news here is all of this, Fatima informs me, will be put onto YouTube. So the recording of what you've discussed will be not just for this audience, but will be for anyone around the world. And I would like to congratulate each and every one of you for a very detailed, very personal, very direct contribution to this panel session. I know a little bit about charging. I clearly don't know as much as you know about charging, and you articulated it incredibly well. We do have time for one question, if we have one in the audience. If not, yeah, gentleman at the front there, please. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Samir. I'm from a company called Unicorn, and it was really good conference here, and you have opened a lot of eyes as a charge point operator. One of the questions I would like to ask is like, there are a lot of development happening in the battery sector. BYD introduced 10C charging batteries. That means you can charge in 5 minutes, 400 kilometers you can run. And day before yesterday, I heard that CITA will come with a new battery technology for 512 kilometers in 5 minutes you can charge. So how you see the infrastructure of UAE, where we are getting only 180 kilowatt and that kind of charger. So we need to replace all these chargers to adapt to the technology coming in the market.
Yeah, it's very good that you mentioned it. Yeah, one of the main hesitation of owning an EV is the very long recharging time, which if we have a 400 kilowatt charger and the fastest EV to charge, which let's say the Lucid, it will take it from 0 to 100% in around 30 minutes, 25 at least. Now with the new technologies from BYD, as you mentioned, and from CATL, if it were to be actual on the ground very soon, we already have the chargers enough to supply the 1,000 kilowatt for each vehicle. We already have the HYC 1000 from Alpetronic, although the connector is the CMS for trucks, but also the CCS2 can be developed to have much higher amps. So in the very near future, within a year or two, I think having 1,000 kilowatt chargers in the region will be on ground.